de maracujá azedo que dá fruta todo dia de manhã e todo dia de manhã. Eu tomo sucumara de maracujá azedo com tanto açúcar.
Cool. So, you mean what kind of music it is?
Yeah, like what inspirations you had, and like, can
Mm.
you hear them like in your music? Yeah, so what are you pulling, from to sort of to have created that?
Okay, so well, it's interesting that this album, I think it's like a product of around 4 years of experimenting a lot. So I did work for a long time, for 15 years, with artists, just touring and being a side drummer for mainstream artists in Brazil, and I did so playing music, their music, right? I did that for a long time. And I felt that at some point around 2015, I thought that I needed to kind of go back to why I started playing drums, trying to connect with that feeling, which funny enough is something that Edu Ribeiro, which is a Brazilian drummer that Alan and I have been talking about him recently. He's an amazing drummer. He's a big master in Brazil, very, very, he inspires many drummers in Brazil and I think obviously throughout the world. And I met up with him once and I kind of like, I opened my heart to him. I was like, oh, this is happening. I'm feeling disconnected with my instrument. And I want to go back to, to finding my my statement, work on my statement with my instrument. And he said, well, you have to reconnect with that feeling that you had when you started playing drums. Why did you start playing drums? What was your goal with that? And that it's simple and it's kind of obvious, but in the same time, it really helped me go back to that feeling, and so in that moment I spoke to another master, which was his teacher in the past, Lilian Carmona, which is an amazing drummer. She is absolutely brilliant, and she is a very respected teacher. So he spoke to her. I didn't know her personally, and we're a bit scared of her because she has this kind of whiplash fame, like very, like a very strict teacher,
Right.
and but he said, go to her. She's going to help you because she's the perfect person for what you need right now. And I did go to her, and it was the best thing that I've done in my entire career. I spent 4 years having lessons with her every week and just connecting with my instrument, and she inspired me completely to make this album. So um, it was intense for these years that I had lessons with her, and I practiced so much. Like I would wake up at 6 a.m. and I would practice until 10 a.m. before I started work, and every day, and it was the best thing that I did, really. And with that product, that the product of that is the album, really, because when the pandemic came, then I said, okay, now I'm just going to create, right? Because I've been practicing for a long time, practicing, and I want to stop everything, stop practicing, and create music, which is a different channel. So I connected with, well, I started writing music. I have my piano, and I work a lot with my DAW, which is right now on the Logic and sometimes Ableton Live, and I just kind of create music. Either I sit on the drum kit and I just play a lot and record what I'm doing. Record sometimes 1 hour session. I record the whole session on Logic, and then I just listen to it and separate the bits that I think that there's a story there, like, oh, this is interesting. This gave me an idea of a melody or of a theme or whatever, and then I would cut these bits, and then on top of that, I would create music. That's usually how I work with creation, and And so I did everything really. I would get the drums, and then after, obviously, I re-recorded the drums, the final, you know, when I had the final thing on the like the final cut, I would re-record it, like to make it sound, you know, more glued to the whole idea. But then with the drum tracks, I usually play the bass, not the actual bass. I play MIDI bass on the keys. I am not a bass player,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I have the bass lines. I create the bass lines, and I would create the saxophone lines, you know, the all the arrangements and synthesizers, harmonies, everything. And then I'd send it out to friends, like, hey, I have this track. I think this has your vibe. Would you like to record this? And usually it would be friends either that I've played with in life and that I admire, you know, and I feel connected musically, or friends that I just admire but I've never played with, and I would just write them up like, hi, I know we're not friends, but would you, you know, would you like to record this track? And that was amazing because I had some very talented musicians that I admire, that listened to it and like, yeah, sure, I'll do it, you know. And so I got together a bunch of amazing people on the record, Brazilians, and also an American guy, Jason Lindner, who recorded. He has many projects like Now versus Now, and he recorded David Bowie's last album, Black Star. And so it was really cool. Like I got a bunch of amazing people to record on the album, and they would just from their home studio, they would record the saxophone or the bass, or the piano, and they'd send it back to me, and I just put it on the project, you know, do a bit of editing, and then when it was done, like whenever all the ideas were there and everything was ready, you know, I just send it to Maji, which was the person that mixed my album. So yeah, that was the work, and it was completely, like, in a way lonely because I was in my studio. I didn't have anyone there with me, you know. I didn't jam with anybody. It was a different way to make an album.